Welcome to my virtual presentation on common data elements. I'm Carolina Mendoza Cuccini. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a program officer overseeing the NINDS Common Data Elements project. This is my email and our website where you can access our common data elements. And we also have 2 Slack channels where I will be answering some questions later. I'm going to give you a general overview of what is the Common Data Elements projects and our goals. The CDE project was created back in 2009. We started with 8 disease areas. We were actually the first institute at NIH developing CDEs. The CDE project is a trans-NIH effort, so we don't work together. We work with other federal agencies as well, nonprofit organizations, patient advocacy groups, academic institutions, and professional organizations. So I'm going to give you a little definition of what is a data element. So a data element is that little piece of information that describes a piece of data to be collected in a study. So for example, if you have data collection form, one question of that data collection form or data point is going to be considered a data element. For example, date of birth, that's a data element. When we talk about common data elements are going to be a combination of a precisely defined question. So that variable that is going to be paired with a specific set of responses to the question. And that is going to be common to multiple data sets. And this way to collect the data is going to be done in a harmonized way across a particular study. So for example, you have a multi-center study, you're going to have the same data collection form, the same instructions on how to collect that data across all the sites in that multi-center study. The goals of the common data elements are first, harmonization. So make sure that we have common definitions, we have consistency in the way we collect the data, because that will minimize variability. Second is fostering collaboration, because that means that we're going to have an easier way to do systematic data collections, an easier way to share data, and to analyze it across study, for example, in a meta-analysis. Also efficiency, so it will save you a lot of time if you can go to our website and download the case report forms that are ready and already vetted by a group of subject matter experts, and also data dictionaries that you can download or upload into your electronic data capture systems. And I'll talk to you about that later in the presentation. And also to improve the data quality and integrity, because if you're collecting your data in the same way, that will provide, your data will be better. Your data will be your data will have better quality and integrity. And this also will promote interoperability among systems and among studies. So why do we tell you, okay, it is good to use the common data elements? And this applies in general to all data standards. So in this particular case in our project, because you will have a repository of validated instruments. And these instruments are already vetted by a group of subject matter experts. So you don't have to do that work of selecting, okay, what I'm going to include in my study and what I will not. And as I mentioned before, we have case report forms or the data collection forms that are ready to be downloaded. And also data dictionaries that I mentioned before, you can upload them into electronic data capture systems such as REDCap that is widely used in the research community. So other things that we can say about the use of common data elements is that first, for this project, we're open access, we're free. And the only reason or the only situation where you will not find a case report form is if the instrument is copyrighted, because that's proprietary information and we cannot publish that. But otherwise, everything is available for free. You don't have to even register. So another thing is that it is an NIH funded project, but this is for all the research community. So you don't necessarily have to be funded by NIH to use the common data elements. Basically, any scientist working in neuroscience can go into the website and download our information. So the information that we have is expressed in machine readable format. You can link the data sets and examine relationships when you use data across a study or different studies. And as I mentioned before, it increases precision and is going to eliminate errors of other methods, and also promote interoperability between different systems. So how do we develop the CDs? So first we identify the CDs, and there are different ways to identify them, either by there's a critical gap in our institute, or if also, is nominated by an external group and it has a strong justification that it meets the needs that we have at that point. So after we identify the CDs, we invite a group of subject matter experts in that scientific area. So as I mentioned before, we collaborate with other institutes, other federal agencies, the National Library of Medicine, also the CDC, FDA, DOD, depending on the area of the project. We also try to align with other international data standards, or ISO, or LOINC, that is not mentioned here, but it's a lab data standard, whenever possible. So we don't reinvent the wheel. We also ask for insight from patient advocacy groups and industry, because they're very important part of our stakeholders. And NINDS provides continuous guidance throughout the development of the project. However, the selection is done by the scientific community. So this is the classification on how we determine if an instrument is going to be, or data element is going to be required or not when you do a specific study. So this is maybe a little complicated, but just in a nutshell is, if you see core, that means that those elements or instruments are going to be required. So as an example, if we're doing a stroke trial, we are going to tell you, okay, you're going to have to collect at a minimum a list of instruments or elements or data, because the subject matter experts determine that this is fundamental to collect if you're doing that type of study in stroke. So for general core, they're very basic elements or data that includes demographics, the patient consent process, etc. Disease core that will be following the example in stroke, that all stroke trials will collect this information. So these are not extensive lists, they're short lists because they're very specific. Then the following is the supplemental highly recommended, that has a different name in TBI, but I'm not going to mention that now. They're called basic. So supplemental highly recommended is if you have, for example, a stroke trial that has a cognitive component or maybe an exercise or rehab component, then you will find those elements here, or instruments that you need to collect. Supplemental and exploratory, they're not that important. Supplemental may be instruments that are not that widely used or known, or maybe they're very specific or focusing a particular area. Exploratory are not validated instruments. And something that I didn't mention is that from the disease core to supplemental, those are all validated instruments. So we've developed over 20 projects on CDE. So we have, I think, 23 in total, and many of them include pediatric specific recommendations. So we have very common diseases in our portfolio, like stroke, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury, but we also have rare diseases like mitochondrial disorders or neuromuscular disorders. We're currently working on CDEs in neurological disorders rehabilitation. We call it neurorehab. We are in partnership with the National Center for Medical Rehabilitation Research. They're funding the study and we're collaborating with them. And coming soon are the Parkinson's disease version 2. This is a revision of the PD-CDE project that was developed a few years back. So our website, this is the URL on the bottom, and they're also across the presentation, you'll find it in all those slides. So this is how the landing page of our website looks. So you can see, you can do a searching by a data point name, or maybe by case report form, or even build your own case report form based on different data collection forms. So this is a very brief example on how to navigate the website. So if you're interested in a particular disorder, you go to the CDE search on top of the page, and then you go to, we're gonna select here stroke. So I click stroke, and then this is the landing page of stroke. So they're divided into subgroups or domains. So I selected here randomly the assessments and examinations. So I'm interested, let's say, to see about the Glasgow Coma Scale form. So in here, you're gonna see in the left, the name. If you click on the name, you're going to find the notice of copyright. So this is the information about that particular instrument. So since this form is already in the public domain, we didn't develop a case report form. However, we do have data dictionary or CDE details on that, and I'll show you that later. So if you click on the CDE details, you'll get the data dictionary. I'll show you an example. And also the notice of copyright is also called the instrument informational document. So it basically gives you a general overview of what you are about that instrument or the case report form. So the notice of copyright or the informational part of the for that instrument has a hyperlink on top of the availability. Where can you find that particular instrument? So it will redirect you to that page. It will tell you how that instrument is classified. So if it's required or if it's supplemental highly recommended. Then it gives you a short description of the instrument, also comments and special instructions, and this comes usually from the subject matter experts group. So it may be telling you if there any specific instruction that you have to take in account, or maybe a strength and weakness about that instrument. It gives you also information about the scoring and psychometric properties of the instrument or scale, and a list of references. So the case report form, as I mentioned before, I'm going to check another one here because this one, the physical and neurological exam, has a case report form that you can download. So you click in there, and this is what you see. So you will see a window to download the Word version form, and in some diseases, you may find that it will open in the website. So it is, let's say, a Word document, or opens in the website that you can download as a Word document, and you will get this form where you will collect the data. So remember that case report forms are not data source documents. So this is to collect data. They are not that widely used right now because they're paper forms. And so I will show you the data dictionary. So that's what is widely used right now because we use more computers or electronic data capture systems. But this is available. So there is also a way to search, if you're not sure where that data element or instrument is, you can go to the case report form search or the data element search. So in this case, I'm going to give you the example of the CRF or case report form search. So I'm going to follow the same example. Okay, so I want to know where is the Glasgow Coma Scale form. So I'm going to search for that. And then this is what I'll see. So I'll see the output is the CRF module guidance. So it will give me the name of the scale, the description, the CDE details. So that's where my data dictionary will be. And if you find more than one here on the right, the subdisease name, you can click in there and select as many forms as you want so you can download them. So on top, you're going to select download the table content into a zip file if you're selecting more than one. And sorry. Okay, so this is what you will see on the data dictionary or the CDE details. So let me just repeat what I said before. So you get here, this is part of the table because if you scroll to the right, you will see all the columns with all the information. So at the end of that form, you will see a download the CSV data set. So as I mentioned before, you can download more than one. So this will be in the very bottom of the page. So if you download that, you will see this. So it's a comma separated version spreadsheet. So it will open in Excel, and then you'll be able to see this. So I mentioned before that one of the great things about these data dictionaries is that you can upload them into an electronic data capture system. So I'm going to give you the example of REDCap. REDCap because it is very popular in the scientific community and a lot of people use it. So I'm not an expert in REDCap. I'm just going to give you the general capabilities, what I know and what I've used in the past. Before I came to NIH, I used this in one of the studies that I worked on. So when you're going to save that CSV file, and you're going to look at the first row. And in REDCap, they call them headers of the columns or titles. So you're going to have to change the headers and modify or adapt it to REDCap because they have 4 columns that they require. So they're mandatory. So I would advise you to go and read the help on FAQ on REDCap and look at the video tutorials. And there's a spelling error here. And the video tutorials are really good because they give you step-by-step on how to do these changes. So this is like a quick step-by-step you're going to see in REDCap, that download the current data dictionary or download the data dictionary with drafted changes. So this is what you have to do and follow the instructions on how to modify the headers. You're going to upload it, and then you're going to get this window here that says, browse, upload. This is where you're going to actually look for your file and upload it into the system. So you will get a message stating that your document was successfully uploaded. They're going to make some changes because REDCap has some particularities. They don't like caps, so they will convert everything to lower caps, or they will give you any warnings or any additional warnings that you have to change, or errors that you may find. So then you will get the notification that everything was fine and the changes made successfully. And then after that, you can actually review what you uploaded because that's going to be translated in REDCap into a case report form. So this is what you will see. And I will tell you again, look at the videos because I think this is another way to make changes to what you already uploaded. And as I mentioned, I'm not an expert in that. So this is how the case report form will look, like the final version before you put it into production, so before it's live. So we'll have all the question on the left, the options or permissible values on the right. And that's it. So that is the end of my presentation. And this is again our website where you can go and check what we've developed. And this is my contact information and the CDE contact information. And I encourage you to contact me if you have any questions or concerns or challenges on how to find the information that you're looking for. Thank you very much.